Hello everyone. In this video, to round out and finish up our unit on wave energy, we're going to talk about eyes and ears. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, as far as the stuff that you're going to need to know for your test and the finals, you want to focus on the material that is in the homework sheet. This video and the PowerPoint will explain in great detail what is on your sheet, but not everything that is in this PowerPoint is going to be on your test. Only the things that are on your homework sheet will be tested on. For example, you're asked to label a couple of things, for instance, the parts of the ear and the parts of the eye. And we've been together long enough to know that you are highly likely to see these diagrams on examinations. So please make sure you take the necessary time to learn the parts and be able to label both the ear and the parts of the eye. All right, so with that little tidbit out of the way, let's go ahead and run quickly through the parts of the ear and the parts of the eye and their functions. So starting with the ear, again, this will deal with sound, hopefully. Hopefully you guys know that. And the ear is broken up into three rough parts. You have the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. And what makes us human, or human and all mammals, will share this trait: the hammer, the stirrup, and the anvil. And that is dealing with these auditory bones, these three guys right in here. Okay, so that is the hammer, the stirrup, and the anvil. And they are the bones that are vibrated by the eardrum. And the eardrum is also known as the tympanic membrane, and that is this membrane right here. So when sound enters in our ear, in the outer ear, it travels down this ear canal, and it makes this drum vibrate, which causes these auditory bones to vibrate. Okay, and then sound gets transferred into the brain through the cochlea, and you can see all the little hair fibers in here that, depending on how they're vibrated, will determine the sounds that your brain interprets. Okay, the ear canal carries the sound towards the eardrum. Again, that's the ear canal here, and sound goes in this way, in case you did not know that. There are semicircular canals, which are these guys up here, and the semicircular canals actually don't have much to do with hearing or sounds, but they are vital to our balance. And how this works is they are partially fluid filled and partially air filled. And depending on your orientation, whether you are standing upright, your brain knows that you're standing upright based off of how the fluid is moved in these semicircular canals. If you lie down, they'll also tell, because the fluid will shift. If you are spinning around in the teacups at Disney World, it will know, your brain will know, based off of the motion of the fluid. If you ever get dizzy, due to for many reasons, but let's say a sinus infection or a severe cold or something like that, again, that is caused by congestion interfering with the normal balance and the normal positioning of the fluid and the air in your semicircular canals. So make sure you know semicircular canals are good with balance. Tympanic membrane, or the eardrum, this is the part that picks up vibrations again, and it vibrates the auditory bones, your hammer, stirrup, and anvil. And then we have the cochlea, and this is this snail shell shaped area. And it's the part of the air that contains many small hairs that will turn the vibrations into an electrical signal, and here's the nerve fibers that send that electrical signal to the brain. Okay. Then we have the eustachian tube, and this is the part of the ear that actually connects the ear to the mouth. And we have the outer ear, and this is the part that channels. All these different lobes of your ear are designed to help channel the sounds into the ear canal. All right, and those are the parts of the ear, and how sound basically travels from outside sources into your outer ear, gets channeled through these curvatures, through the ear canal. It'll vibrate the tympanic membrane or eardrum, which will make the auditory bones, the hammer, stirrup, and anvil, vibrate. And then we'll transfer those vibrations into the cochlea, and the cochlea transmits these vibrations and transforms them into an electrical signal, which travels down a nerve impulse or several nerve impulses to our brain, which interprets what sounds we're hearing. The semicircular canals, again, deal with balance, and the eustachian tube is just a tube that, if your ear gets clogged due to a sinus infection, this is the area of your ear that's getting clogged. Okay? All right, so that is basically the ear. Also, you want to make sure that the auditory range of a human is between a frequency of 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. So again, that's 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz, 20 kilohertz. That is the auditory range of the human ear. Make sure you know that too. Some variety of hearing problems exist, and our hearing range can be damaged by several things. Biggest one, most common, too much earwax. So buy some Q-tips, clean out your ears. 2, damage to the auditory nerve due to loud music. I actually have some of this damage, and my hearing has suffered due to the time that I worked in college in certain live music venues and nightclubs, very loud music, and trying to be the cool guy that didn't wear earplugs all the time. I now am suffering because of some hearing loss, especially if there's a lot of background noise and someone's talking to me. I can't pick out what they're saying over the background noise. So if you're in a loud class with me and you're trying to say something to me, I just can't hear you. I can't pick out your question over the other talking, which is why I try and get you guys to be quiet while someone's asking a question so I can actually hear it. And then illness or infections. A very good friend of mine in college lost all the hearing in his right ear due to an ear infection that did not get treated. So if you think you are getting sick, you do want, that's why the doctors check your ears every time, and you do want to go to the doctor so that you don't lose the hearing in your ear, because that sucks, according to him. Old age. As we age, the hairs in our cochlea kind of get damaged, and just the whole everything kind of goes as we age. So that's part of it. Hearing loss does happen. You'll see a lot more older folks with hearing aids to help boost their hearing. Moving into the eye, and you're going to see this picture a whole bunch on the several other slides. I'm actually going to talk about how light travels from the outside, and it actually goes through your eye all the way to the fovea, which is the focal point of the eye, and then the fovea will transfer those electrical signals through the optic nerve, which goes into the occipital lobe. So this was the really short, brief way to make that happen. And now we're going to go through step by step of how light actually travels through the eye. But make sure that you guys are memorizing this diagram because you will see this again. Okay? Make sure you're memorizing the parts of the eye. So moving into how light travels to the eye, we have the veil of tears, and that is the first thing that light touches, and it coats the front of the eye. So our tears are out on the outside. I don't know why I can't draw that curvature that well. Let me try this again. There we go. Okay, so the outside of the eye, just outside the cornea, is where the veil of tears is. Once it gets through the veil of tears, it'll hit our cornea, and this is a clear covering that helps to focus the light. All right. Again, we have to take in all this light that our eyes perceive, all this light coming in, and we have to focus it into this tiny little spot back here, the fovea. So to help us with that, we have several little structures that do so. First of which is the cornea. Now the cornea is also a protective covering of the pupil, which is just an opening into your eye, but it protects this area and it helps to focus. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Now we have the aqueous humor, and that's on the other side of the cornea. So that's actually in this area of the eye, right in here. Okay, so between the cornea and the pupil, and it's just an area of moisture that circulates throughout the front part of the eye, and it keeps a constant pressure on the eye. All right, so this sort of helps focus the light a little bit, but it also helps keep an equilibrium in pressure. So this is the fluid-filled, which is why we say aqueous humor. So far, light has traveled in from this direction, starting to get focused, and now we're through the aqueous humor, going to the pupil. And the pupil, which is this area right here, is a circular opening in the colored part of the eye, or iris. Okay, the colored part of our eye is called the iris. And the iris reacts to the amount of light, and it may contract or dilate. So your pupils, again, a pupil is just a hole. It's not actually a component of the eye. It's sort of the absence of something. It's the hole. Think of it as a camera lens. If you have a camera lens, will stay very small until you open it to exposure, and that instantaneous exposure will allow a picture to form. Same principle with the pupil of the eye. Okay. So the pupil will be large if it's darker out and there's not as much light available, and very small if it's very bright out. Okay, so that is the pupil. Next, we travel through the lens, and the lens is concave, oval shaped. It acts as a prism, and I'll draw, it's basically two prisms on top of each other. All right, and it's designed to refract the light. So depending on if the light's coming from this way or the light's coming from this way, its job is to refract it to the fovea. And remember, refraction just means to bend. Okay, so whenever the light's coming in, its job is to bend the light into the fovea, the focal point of the eye. So the lens light goes through the lens, it focuses the light like a camera lens and changes the shape or refracts it from near or distant objects. Then we have the vitreous, which is the middle part of the eye, so this stuff, okay? And it is the thick jelly center of the eye. So if you actually were to puncture the eye, the fluid that would come out would be the vitreous gel. And then finally we have the optic nerve, which is this guy here. So once light gets through the vitreous gel, again, its job is to focus and help bend the light into the fovea. The fovea is the focal point of the eye, and then this area, this focal point, will take a whole bunch of cells and will transfer this data through. Now this little dimple looking thing right here, that's the blind spot of the eye. It's where your eye can't pick up anything. And then it travels the signals, the electrical signals now into the optic nerve, into your brain, specifically the occipital lobe. All right, so what is the retina? And the retina is this whole back part of the eye. So the whole back part of the eye is the retina. And it surrounds the vitreous gel, okay, and acts like the camera film. So a picture comes in here and here and here and here and here. And it's got photochemical reactions that occur, which transmits the signal throughout all of these little cells in here into the optic nerve. So the parts of the retina, we have blood vessels, which bring nutrients and oxygen to the retina's nerve. We have the macula, which is this guy. The center of the retina, it's the focal point of the eye, and there are more photoreceptor cells than at any other place in the retina. Photoreceptors are just what they sound like. They're specialized nerve cells, and they're made up of two kinds of photoreceptors. And these you want to know. Make sure you know what these are. So we have the rods and the cones. The rods have a light and side vision. Okay, so the rods do light and side vision, and they do mostly like shadows. Found in the center of the macula, and then we have cones, and cones give us color. Okay, and fine detail, and they are on the outside of the macula to the edge of the retina. So cones, color, C. Cones do color, rods do shadows. Okay, and then photoreceptors convert light into electrical chemical message, which will then, remember, these are the cells that are like in here, rods and cones, and they're called that because, well, that's exactly what they look like. Rods look like rods. Well, that's a terrible drawing. Looks like rods, and cones look like cones. And again, I'm a horrible, horrible artist. But you get the idea, I hope. All right, make sure you know rods and cones. Cones, color, rods, shadows. Then we have some stuff that I want to talk about but will not be tested on, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Retinal epithelial pigment is a dark layer of tissue that's like the black area against the photoreceptors so that the photoreceptors can help absorb light that it doesn't need. Choroid, which are layers of blood vessels behind the retina, so that's like this little white part of it right here before you get to the photoreceptors. And then we have the sclera, which is a tough fibrous material. The sclera is the white of your eye. Okay, so you have your iris, of your eye. The iris is the color part. The pupil is the hole that lets light in. Then you have the sclera, which is just the white portion of the eye. All right, that's the sclera. Now, this last slide is a colorblind test of whether or not your cones are genetically messed up. And again, it's nothing major. It's not a huge hindrance, but it is just a variation in the way the cones work. And typically, your color blindness will be due to a red and a green cones that you have, or red and green are the colors that get mixed up. Again, just because you're colorblind doesn't mean you're deficient in any way, shape, or form. It just means you're different, and that's okay. We're all different. I see the number 29. I've been tested many times when I go to the eye doctor. They have never said I'm colorblind, so I'm assuming that if I see 29 instead of a different number, then that means I do not have the condition known as color blindness, right? So see what number you see. So in that case, your video secret number, just for fun, is also 29. And do your questions, study those. Please, 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 please memorize and learn how to label these diagrams. You are not going to have word banks. You're going to get a picture with a bunch of lines on it. You need to make sure you memorize those. Take the time now to learn them. See you guys in class.